Hi there. Today we are going to be talking about 8 principles to help you really have the Christ-centered, God-centered, kingdom-driven business that you want to have. And all 8 of these principles all start with P. So we're going to be talking about a plan, a perspective, personality, a prayer, person, a prudence, a promotion, and a provision. I hope you join me today as we're talking about what this means for our businesses and how we can use examples of women in the Bible that will help us do it. Hi, I am DeneenTB, and I am here every Tuesday live with you so that we can bring you some ways, some tools, some ideas, some reframes and mindset shifts about what you can do to help have the God-centered, kingdom-driven business that you want. If you are here, please make sure to say hello to me. I don't always see everyone. Would love to have you say hi to me in the comments. Let me know where you are coming in from. My comments are over there, and so I'll be checking that out. But I always like to get started on this live with the material, with what I want to bring to you today. So we've been talking about our passion the last couple of weeks because it's the beginning of 2020, and we always think about our goals and our passions and what we want to do with our life for the year, right? So do you have an idea for a business that's like in your head or God's pulling at your heart? Is there just like this dream that's just kind of making room inside of your head? They call it ruminating, right? Inside of your head. It's been there for a while, but you haven't really done anything about it. Do you have some kind of vision for going greater, for getting more and doing more, especially for God as you serve your clients, you're serving Him? Well, it's all good. You know, that God given vision that you have, along with your specific set of skills, abilities, gifts, talents, and experiences, brings your uniqueness into the world. Because, let's face it, no one has ever existed that is exactly like you. And God's given you a purpose. He's given you a job. He's given you some plans. He says in Ephesians 2:10 that he gave you good works to do. And at this time of your life might be one of those good works. And it is a business. So I love that. And it's something that He's designed for you from the foundation of the world. That's what Ephesians 2:10 says. So we have to look at God's design. That's the first thing that we need to do. So the first thing is a plan. And the principle behind the plan is that God created you and me to work. From the beginning, we see this example in Eve. Eve was created to be a helper. That was what her designation was, to help. And as a helper, she was mandated to work alongside of Adam for the physical work of caring for the garden. In Genesis 2:15, it says, the Lord God placed Adam in the Garden of Eden to tend it and watch over it. They are also told to be fruitful and multiply, and they were to subdue and govern the earth. And we see that in Genesis 1:28. It says, then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern it. So here we see that both the intellectual work and the physical work, right, what had no distinction for God, right, to subdue and govern. There was no mention of which type of work was more important or what was more godly. All the work was necessary and all of it was good. God has a plan for your work, and I know it's good. The second one, P word, is a perspective, a perspective. And the perspective principle is that you are called to the marketplace. As a Christian business owner, entrepreneur, you are called into the marketplace. So that's your perspective. As a believer in Jesus, you have your position, your business is there to do something. God calls you a living stone that He is building to offer spiritual sacrifices pleasing to Him. That's from 1 Peter 2:5. It says that He's building us as a spiritual temple. And what's more, we are holy priests through the meditation of Jesus Christ. And that's why Everything we do, we can offer as a sacrifice that pleases God. So you are chosen as a royal priest to show others the goodness of God. First Peter 2:9 says, "For you are a chosen people, you are royal priests, a holy nation, God's very own possession. As a result, you can show others God's goodness, for he called you out of the darkness and into his wonderful light." That's so encouraging to me today that I can be that light. And so our biblical example of this is Esther. Like Esther, you are royalty in the marketplace. You have royal responsibilities in your work. What does that mean? That means that you provide for others, you protect your sphere of influence, and you make sacrifices so that things can work out for you and your team, your employees, your clients, for your family, for all of those things. So God has called you, get that perspective, into the marketplace for his specific purpose. No one has your set of credentials to do the job that he's called you to do. So that's a pretty special responsibility. If you're here today with me, please do say hello in the chat. I am trying to make sure I don't miss anybody. Thank you so much for being here. We've done 2 of our P words of our 8 principles, our 8 ways to have that kingdom-driven business. The third one is our personality. Your personality specifically, because the principle here is that you need to show up authentically in your business and your life, because only you can show up that way. God never asks you to change your personality, but he does change you. You are unique. And our biblical example of this is Lydia. She was a woman with her own style. She was flamboyant, she was friendly, and she was successful. And she loved God. In Acts 16:15, it says she and her household were baptized and asked Paul and Silas to be their guests. "If you agree that I am a true believer in the Lord," she said, "come and stay at my home." She urged until they actually agreed. She was a woman just like you. She was merging her 2 worlds together by staying culturally relevant as she stayed in position to share her faith. So you have unique influence as well. Only you can show up as you in your business. Your talents, skills, your values, and your personality, all of those things that make up you, like I said before, you're the only one that will ever exist. Use this distinction to shine in your industry. Lydia shows us that you don't have to apologize for being exactly who God created you to be. Now, it doesn't mean that you get to be rude, but it means you get to do what God asks. Our next one is our prayer. Prayer. This means the principle here is that we trust God, especially for the results, and that we just do the next thing that we're supposed to do and do the process and trust him for the results. And that's where prayer comes in, because God gives us these supernatural gifts so that we can live out his calling in our life. Our biblical example here is Rahab. Rahab trusted God even when she really didn't know him. She believed in a power more than herself, and she put her faith, that was her spiritual gift, her faith in that power. You can read her story in Joshua 2, and I'm going to look at verses 9 and 11, and it says, she says, "I know the Lord has given you this land." She told this to the spies. "We are all afraid of you. Everyone in the land is living in terror." And in verse 11, it says, "No wonder our hearts have melted in fear. No one has the courage to fight after hearing such things. For the Lord your God is the supreme God of the heavens above and of the earth below." So she knew she could not control the situation that she was in. She couldn't rely on her own strength for survival. So we also need to look to God to do big things the way she looked to God to do big things to save herself and her family. Trust God to give you exactly what you need when you need it, and that to do exactly what God is asking you to do, so you move forward in your work and your business. You can only move forward if you trust God for who he is. Rahab trusted God before she knew who he was. Your faith will help you make correct choices, help you move ahead in your business. Our next one, number 5, is a person. Our P word here is a person. And this principle revolves around building supportive relationships. There are all kinds of relationships that we talk about in our businesses and for our businesses. But today I'm going to talk about being supported by others that are like-minded. This is essential for our business, especially as Christian businesswomen and entrepreneurs. You are never alone when you have a support system. So God brings specific people into your life to give you strength, give you encouragement, support, and to do what he's called you to do. If you don't have people in your life like that, I suggest that you get new friends. Get new people. Find that community where you can do that. We have our biblical example of Priscilla here. She was this type of relationship for Paul. She and her husband always come together in a package, and they were friends with Paul. And this friendship that was a business level and a spiritual level. And we see this in Acts chapter 18, verses 3 and 18. Paul lived and worked with them. That means Priscilla and Aquila, husband and wife, for they were tent makers, just as he was. And Paul stayed in Corinth for some time after that, then said goodbye to the brothers and sisters and went to nearby Centuria. There he shaved his head according to Jewish custom, marking the end of a vow. Then he set sail for Syria, taking Priscilla and Aquila with him. So he stayed for a while, working together in the business, and then he took them with him on his missionary journey to be helpers with him. So by working together each day with people who are like-minded believers, we too can build relationships with people in our offices, with our team, with our networking groups, and other business dealings. It provides an opportunity for you to connect with other believers for that mutual support. Number 6, the word for number 6 is prudence. Prudence. What in the world? Well, I've used the word prudence to help me explain the principle of building a reputation. Building a reputation. So statistics say that it takes 10 years, of focused study to become an expert in any field, and to build a reputation can take just as long. Our biblical example is Huldah. And Huldah understood this very well. She spent her entire life in the pursuit of knowledge. Her story is in 2 Kings. And we're going to look at chapter 22, verse 14. So Hilkiah, the priest, also Ahikam, Akbor, Shaphan, and Asaiah, they all went to the new quarter of Jerusalem where she lived to consult the prophet Huldah. All the high priests went to consult her because of her reputation. She was the wife of Shallum, son of Tikva, son of Harus, the keeper of the temple wardrobe. Take the opportunity each day to make choices to do good that get others to know, like, and trust you. It's important to continually build your expertise and show up the same way every day in every situation. Huldah's world and today's world are actually the same. Everyone's doing their own thing, and there's not really any moral authority. You may feel like it doesn't matter what I do or how I act. No one's really paying attention to me. But know this, the things that you do that go beyond the expectations of your customers, your clients, your colleagues, and your coworkers builds the reputation that God wants for you. Huldah built her reputation over many years without the expectation of a raise or recognition. But God used her at just the right time for his purpose, and he will use you too. Our next word is promotion. Promotion. And this principle is about giving God glory. So we're promoting him in all that we do. So seeing all the activities of our life, specifically your work, is to give God glory is just the starting point. There's no difference really between the sacred and the secular. Our biblical example, our woman from the Bible, is Martha, that shows us there is not a difference. She led her household and she had lots of responsibilities. And she was never asked to give any of that up when she followed Christ. Her work served the kingdom and it was God given. It was necessary work to fulfill God's plan for her and to bring him glory. What we have in John 11:27 is that she gets to say this. She says, "Yes, Lord, I have always believed you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God." You know, Martha was given the distinction of stating that Jesus was the Messiah. Only Peter was the other person in the Bible to say this aloud. By being in relationship with Jesus, she changed from the inside out. And because of that, God gets the glory in your life when you are so filled up by him that he can't help but stick out all over the place in your life. This includes your business. Jesus wanted Martha's heart, but he never told her to separate her work life from her faith life. He wanted her work to have purpose and meaning, and he wants that for you too. Number 7. Oh, that was number 7, promotion. Sorry, I'm not keeping up with this. That's what happens when you're live, right? And our last one is provision. This word provision and its principle means being consistent and pursuing excellence, because God provides a way for us to do that. God calls me to pursue excellence no matter your circumstance. You can never overlook the importance of the work he has you doing by the size of your bank account or your popularity in the market or even your position in your company. God is looking at your heart, your devotion to him, and that's what he's using to shape your character to be more like his son. Our biblical example is Ruth. Ruth's story shows us just what she was doing just that, being consistent and pursuing excellence. As she worked in the fields, gleaning to survive, in Ruth 2:7, it says, the person talking says, "She asked me this morning if she could gather grain behind the harvesters. She has been hard at work ever since, except for the few minutes rest in the shelter." I love the fact that she's our example of showing a good attitude and doing your best. God is giving you the power each day to get up and go do. We don't depend on our own ability to make it happen. We depend on God to make it all work out for our benefit, for your benefit. Your devotion to God gives you the strength to be consistent in your work and in your life. Ruth may not have wanted to glean from the fields, but she did it faithfully every day because she needed for herself and Naomi, her mother-in-law, to eat and survive. The work might have been beneath her pay grade, but she showed up each day and she worked with excellence. Showing up with a good attitude and doing your job well is important to God. Did you know that the Bible was full of such great examples of women just like you? God designed them for their time, and God designed you for your time right now. Follow that God-given dream and connect your faith and your business. God's given you all you need to fulfill his calling on your life, to do the good works. Remember Ephesians 2:10 that he planned for you. And right now that work is you in your business. To learn more about having your clarity around what God is asking you to do, I like to call it my calling clarity. I invite you to look at the Clarified book. This is where all of those women are. There are the 8 that we talked about, and there are 12 altogether. You can learn more about this just from the book, Getting Started. There's lots of exercises in here to help you really connect your faith in your business so that your business becomes what God intended it to be, to glorify him. The book is designed to help you discover really what God wants for you to show up in the business so you can show him to others through your work. I am so excited today that you are here. I know many of you will be on the replay, and I so appreciate the fact that you're here. If you want to, in the comments, I would love to know which biblical woman really inspires you. Which biblical woman really inspires you to do well in your business and have that kingdom driven, God centered business that He wants for you? I thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. And as always, be filled to overflowing.